Welcome to I'm Your Target Demographic. Before we jump into the meat of this video, I wanted to shout out that I've officially created a Facebook page for I'm Your Target Demographic. So beyond just YouTube, I do a lot of other stuff on my written blog. So if you want to be updated on kind of all the stuff that's happening, if you want to have conversations with each other, if you want to kind of give suggestions on what videos I cover, stuff like that, head over to Facebook, look up I Am Your Target Demographic, like the page, see what's going on over there. And with that, let's jump in. Today we're talking about the Black Panther. In the slate of Marvel movies for Phase 3 that they released, one of those is the Black Panther, and they talked about his upcoming movie and some other movies that he's going to appear in, so I thought now would be a good time to talk about the history of Black Panther and some kind of cool things that could appear, villains that might appear, things like that. This is meant for casual fans that maybe don't know a lot, right? Like, I like the movies, I don't know what's happening, so this is a very basic level conversation about the Black Panther. So, where do we start? In the Marvel comics, there's a fictional country called Wakanda. And Wakanda's ruler, kind of the king of that country, is called the Black Panther. It's a title. So when our story begins, the Black Panther of the time is called T'Chaka. And T'Chaka has two kids, a son named T'Challa, and a daughter named Shuri. Now, why Wakanda is such an important nation is that a long time ago there was a meteorite that crashed there. And it has a mineral called vibranium. And they were able to kind of technologically advance using vibranium. So they've created kind of these crazy defenses. No one can invade them. They're kind of very powerful, but they isolate and conceal themselves to not kind of advertise what they have to offer. It is a very wealthy nation, and the kind of ruler of this nation is usually one of the most wealthiest people on the planet. So one of the roles of the Black Panther is to protect the country and this vibranium. Now, we've seen vibranium before in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It is the material that makes up Captain America's shield. So this is the hardest material kind of in the world. And in the comic books, it is even harder than the adamantium that laces Wolverine's bones. Kind of, it is as indestructible as you can get. So that is why so many people want it. But luckily their defenses are incredible. So back to the title of Black Panther. So T'Chaka is kind of the leader of this kind of country, and he's killed by someone named Ulysses Claw. And Ulysses wants the vibranium, but luckily he's defeated and fended off by T'Chaka's son, T'Challa. And T'Challa is the Black Panther that we're going to be talking about for the rest of this video. So he takes up his father's mantle and kind of defends the country from anyone that would seek to come in and take the vibranium. So T'Chaka, the former Black Panther, was very isolated, kind of focused on Wakanda, but T'Challa is a little more worldly. For example, he went to Oxford and got a PhD in physics. So he would go out and kind of see the world. So when he became Black Panther, he saw the need and the importance of kind of global relationships. So it's with that in mind that he went to New York and kind of sought out the Avengers. At first he was a little hesitant. He was kind of spying on them. Are they a threat? But eventually he makes alliances with them and serves as an Avenger for a long, long time. So he's a little more out there and willing to kind of see the world and incorporate kind of what's happening in the world into Wakanda. Now, for a while, his identity was secret. That kind of there was Wakanda as a nation, and then there was this hero, the Black Panther. Eventually he unveils himself kind of to the world and says, we are one and the same. But he did have a couple other aliases throughout kind of his career. There's a really interesting storyline where he takes over protecting the area of New York called Hell's Kitchen, which is traditionally protected by Daredevil. But Daredevil kind of goes through this kind of moral crisis, whatever, has to leave. And the Black Panther takes over protecting that part of the city in a storyline called The Man Without Fear. But it's like Black Panther, not Daredevil. Interesting. And so during that time, he had this other alias, like working at like a restaurant. But now it's kind of common who he is, and, you know, they're one and the same. So what can the Black Panther do? Kind of whoever takes over this role eats this herb, kind of this plant, and it connects them to the panther god that they worship. And this gives them kind of supernatural strength, agility. It kind of makes them more powerful. This is kind of complemented by the technology that they have. So his suit is kind of laced with vibranium. He's kind of known to have these like energy daggers he can throw around. Kind of they use technology to complement these kind of supernatural skills that he has. He's kind of seen as the Batman of Marvel Comics. That he's got the wealth, he's got this technology that he can use to complement that, and he's just an amazing fighter. In addition to the silhouette, which looks very similar, but it's not the same. And as I said before, he's a genius. It's been quoted in the comics that he's one of the 8 smartest men on the planet. So that's gotta say something. He's also known for marrying another African queen named Storm. Yes, Storm from the X-Men. So there's a storyline where they encounter each other when they're very young, and they've kind of crossed paths a lot. But eventually, Black Panther and Storm do marry. It doesn't last, but there is some fascinating stories. The two of them ruling that area of Africa together. Very powerful couple. And the last bit of fascinating information about the Black Panther is that he sits on this mysterious group called the Illuminati. And in the Marvel Universe, the Illuminati is kind of the head honchos from all the different facets of Marvel existence, right? So like Black Bolt from the Inhumans is there. Doctor Strange is there to kind of take care of the mystical stuff. Iron Man is there. Don't know why. Professor X and the mutants. Like there's kind of the head person from each area is in this group. And they make decisions that affect the whole planet or even planets. So they kind of work in the background and make decisions, and Black Panther is one of them. I'll probably do another video on the Illuminati at some point because they are fascinating. So now that we have a basic understanding of who Black Panther is, kind of what he can do, how is this going to fit into the Marvel Cinematic Universe? And we've seen a few snippets from the trailers for Avengers Age of Ultron that lead us to believe that Wakanda might be appearing sooner rather than later. There is one shot that looks like it's taking place in a mine of some sort with someone that I believe might be his sister Shuri. In addition to that, we have what appears to be Ulysses Claw, who kind of side by side, it's Andy Serkis playing him, and it looks just like Ulysses Claw, so it might be that in Avengers Age of Ultron, Ultron seeks out vibranium, and maybe Ulysses is the guy that helps him, somehow he's involved, and maybe this is where T'Chaka is killed. And like I said, it looks like Ultron is looking for vibranium, because he is constantly looking to upgrade himself and make himself more powerful, and how else would you do that other than to make yourself the hardest material known to man? And so we see this shot of kind of molten vibranium. Looks like that's the route they're going to go. So we're going to see a snippet, it looks like, in Avengers Age of Ultron. The next appearance is in Captain America Civil War. So they announced already that actor Chadwick Boseman is going to be taking over as the Black Panther. And his first appearance is going to be in Civil War. But I believe he might show up in Avengers Age of Ultron, we'll see. So in Civil War, I think he'll add this aspect kind of the global superhero community, right? It's not just about the US anymore. But I think he could be an interesting dynamic with Captain America and Iron Man fighting over, one of the smartest, wealthiest people on the planet. So that could be really interesting, and it could tie in him unveiling his identity, which is kind of part of the Civil War storyline. So we'll see him there in Civil War, and then we'll have the standalone Black Panther movie. There's a couple ways they could go with this. The first that I'm thinking is they go back to Ulysses Claw. And maybe this is, he tried to get the vibranium, failed, and now he's coming back. And in the comic books, he is equipped with an arm, kind of a sonic claw, right, clever, that could kind of shoot sonic blasts. It kind of controls sound. So maybe Andy Serkis returns as the villain in that film to get vengeance on his defeat, or whatever. Another interesting story is not an attack from outside, but an attack from inside. That Wakanda has a history of being very isolated, kind of caring about themselves. So when T'Challa starts to travel the world and he's spending all his time out, there's a group of militant warriors from inside Wakanda that don't like this change. And they actually try to resurrect an old clan called the White Gorilla Cult that doesn't worship the panther but worships the ape instead. And their leader, M'Baku, it took me a second to remember the name, M'Baku, to summon the abilities of the gorilla, he goes out and kills kind of this really rare white gorilla and is given strength and power equivalent to the panther, so he's now able to stand up against the Black Panther. So it's M'Baku and the gorillas trying to take over the country of Wakanda and kind of usurp power, which I think would be a really cool story, and not so global, but really focused on them, which would make a really cool standalone movie. So there's some options for what they could do. So that's who the Black Panther is, in a nutshell. Again, super simplified. I know I skimmed over a lot of details. There was actually a really cool point when Shuri took over as the Black Panther, so we could see that eventually, maybe in the movies. There's a lot going on. It's a very interesting character, so I'm excited to see the movies. I just hope that a fraction of this comes across on screen. So, does this excite you? Are you interested in the Black Panther movie? How do you think it's going to play out? Are there other storylines that you've heard of that would be interesting? Let me know. Make sure you subscribe, like, and then hit up my brand new Facebook page and give that a like there too. So, thanks for watching, and see you next time.